It's been quite a week, my magnificent friends. Some of you may know, if you're on my Facebook page, that my dearly beloved sister, Monica, took her last breath last Sunday and made that journey home. So it's been a sad week, and I thought today I would just talk about something that we don't want to talk about, and in most cases people avoid. I want to talk about death and dying today. Now, for some people that's a very morbid topic, and there's this perception that, well, if I die rather than when. Well, last I checked, the human body is only going to last so long. You, my friends, and I are eternal. There's no question about that. Our spirits are going on, have been here forever and are going on forever. However, the body that you chose, that you came into this life, is only going to last for so long. And of course, depending on how you treat it, it will last longer or shorter. Now, so my dear sister Monica was one of these vibrant, go-getter, get her done, take charge, take on the world, large as life kind of people. And bless her heart, she did a lot in her life. So part of this session is to pay tribute to her, to pay tribute to a life well lived. She never quit, she never gave up, and she had plenty of adversity coming her way. There were lots of things that didn't work that well in her life, and obstacles and challenges that she faced that I know at times seemed insurmountable. And yet she carried on. Yet she found a way to move up, over, under, through, around, whatever that looked like, so that she could achieve whatever goals and dreams were there for her. So when she breathed her last breath, it was just 3 days from turning 50. So she made it to her 50th birthday, and I had the great good fortune to be with her for 6 days prior to her 50th birthday. And it was tough in one way, because she was so ill that who I knew in that physical body was not there in the same way. And yet her spirit was strong, and she was there. So we spent some lovely quality time together. And one of the things that I began to understand was that the process of dying is every bit as intricate, as complex, and as messy as the process of being born. It's two ends of the same spectrum, right? And so I hadn't really understood it from that fact, or from that idea before. So when you think about it, it's interesting that it takes a great deal of energy to come into a human body in the first place, because if you're going from spirit, where there's no time and space, there's no gravity, there's nothing to tether you or anchor you, and then here you are in a body that's solid, that's positioned to be steady, that's your feet are on the ground, and you're tethered by gravity and subjected to time and space in a way that you weren't before. Well, I think that can be pretty daunting for the spirit, for our spirits to go, okay, this is really different. So no wonder it takes us a while to, oh, what is this? This is something in front of me. And then eventually when you touch, you go, oh, it's fingers. And somebody gives you a label. Oh, that's your thumb, that's your finger, that's your hand. And so there's this process of learning what it is to be in the physical body that's so different from us in spirit. Well, of course, the process unravels or unwinds or reverses itself as we go back into spirit form. And I think everybody handles that differently. You hear of people going peacefully, calmly, and they just slip away. And other people fight right to the end. Well, there's no right or wrong about that. That's just the way that is. I think what was good for me to understand and to realize, because my sister fought right to the end. It was tough for my brother to watch. My youngest brother, Greg, was there with her, and he found it really hard because this body of hers was struggling so mightily. Well, I think the untethering, the pulling away from gravity and from the body itself is a challenge for our spirits. And so in her case, and she didn't want to go. She just turned 50. She had a lot of life in front of her, and yet it was her time. So I think there's a big struggle about that, I've often said that, well, when it's your time to go, anything can take you. And obviously it was her time to go because she did. And so the struggle at the end was hard. And that was as it was meant to be for her, because that was part of her journey. So then where are we going to go with all of this? So a loved one that we've treasured and cherished and really wished we had a whole lot more time for is no longer here. And at least we can't physically see those loved ones. Now, I've come to understand, and it gives me a lot of comfort. Can I prove it's true to anybody? No, I can't. And I don't even try. My knowing, my understanding is that as spiritual beings, we do not die. We do have life everlasting. And the veil between those that we know, those who have transitioned back to spirit, and those of us still in physical form, the veil between us is very thin. Why is it that you can recall a loved one just by thinking a thought about them? The memory just floods and you see their face, or you hear their voice, or there's something going on, and you feel connected to them. Why is that? Because they're here. They haven't gone anywhere. They're still here. We just aren't able at this moment to reach out and physically touch them. And yet I have had, in talking with friends who have had husbands go or wives go, they'll tell me about how there were times when they felt the physical presence of their loved one who had crossed over, and they were just enveloped in this comfort and this warmth and so on. Was it really happening? Well, my belief said, oh yeah, it was. And even if it's my imagination, I don't care, because we take comfort wherever we can. And I would rather believe that my loved one is at peace and is fine, and everything is grand there. I, in fact, I was imagining the party that was happening in the universe when my sister passed through, because there would be so many beloved, dearly departed to greet her and welcome her home. And I take great comfort in that. I take great comfort in knowing that yeah, they are in a better place. Now, what about us on planet Earth? Well, we're left, and it sucks. I'm not going to sugarcoat it at all, because we have had this personal connection that has been so strong, and people meant something to us. And whether we had the most loving relationship in the world or we didn't, and everything in between, there's a connection there, a bond that is difficult to deal with when the bond is broken from a physical standpoint, when they're not actually with us in physical form. So I can't just pick up the phone and call, how are you doing, sweetie? And what's going on with your day? And so on. So the loss of that, and particularly the loss if you're young. So I was only 17 when my mom died. And she died quite suddenly. It was a big shock. And so dealing with that, and in those days, this was way back in 1967, and in those days, we didn't know what to do about grief. We didn't know that there were the several stages of grief. We didn't know how to work through them. All we knew how to do was to soldier on, stiff upper lip, kind of I have some British in my heritage, and it was just, you just suck it up and move forward the best you can. And if you're crying, well, you're crying in the privacy of your own room. But your public face has to be game on. Well, as you can see, if you've watched Tea with Sue, I have a very expressive face, and what I'm feeling shows on my face. So even if I'm not crying, if I'm despondent, people can tell. If I'm upset, people can tell. So I might as well just cry, because at least I can release those emotions. So in those days, after my mom died, oh man, it took a long time for me to even come to grips with it, because of course there's that numbness to start with. We feel numb, the unreality, so there's no wonder that denial is one of the first stages, because after the shock, we think this can't be happening. How is this possible? And we just don't relate in any way, shape, or form. Well, it's very normal to feel that. And I felt that on Sunday when I got the news. I thought it wasn't unexpected news, but it was a little bit of a shock that she was gone. And then I'm just feeling numb. There's just this gray area where I didn't feel anything. And I was a little worried about that, because I thought, wow, I'm well aware of what happens when I bottle up my feelings, because physically my body will just communicate, oh, no. And then I've got pain in my body simply because I'm holding in or suppressing those feelings. So I was a little bit concerned. And then I talked with my brother, and he told me how things had been towards the end. And he was crying and I was crying, and I'm going, okay, I'm feeling something. So this is good that I'm feeling something. And so we move through these, and I'm not going to go into all of the different stages of grief, because they're readily available if you just Google them. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross was one of the first people, I think, to define the stages of grief. And I think that one of the good things to know about grief is that we can experience several stages all at once. We can be sad and angry and in denial all at the same time. Like that can all be happening, and it can be, any of those stages can be triggered. You know, when we talk about stages, it doesn't mean that okay, I'm here, so then I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to go here. No, we'll go up and down those stages rapid fire depending on the situation. So a photograph, for example, can trigger one of those stages right away. And maybe you're feeling some sadness, and you're feeling some, and then maybe anger. So I felt some anger that my sister didn't get to experience the level of happiness that would have really added to her life had she lived longer. So to have her life, in my view, cut short at 50 years, I'm going, oh, but there was so many more things she wanted to accomplish and experience and so on, and it doesn't seem fair. So I was angry about that on her behalf. And of course, very sad, because she leaves a son behind who isn't fully grown yet. And that, I know, was a huge sadness for her, and one of the reasons she hung on as long as she did and suffered for as long as she did, despite the enormity of the challenge she was facing, was because she was so determined to get him to a certain place. And so there's some sadness that was so hard for her. So we bounce around all the time when we're going through stages of grief. And loss is loss, right? It could be loss of a loved one, could be loss of a job, it could be the loss of a pet. It doesn't matter. The most important thing really is that we learn how to feel the feelings in the moment, and acknowledge that while we might not like the situation, our feelings are there for us to kind of plumb the depths of that. So the extreme love that I feel and felt for my sister triggers that extreme sadness at her not being here physically anymore. So we have these extremes. But would I trade and say, well, if I hadn't loved her so much, then I wouldn't be feeling so bad? I wouldn't trade that. I want that extreme, because that's fully living, that's fully engaging in life. So do what you can if you're in grief. And I know there are lots of people out there right now who have had to face the challenge of losing a loved one and then not being able to come to some kind of completion because their celebration of life was delayed due to the pandemic or some other circumstances. I mean, my sister died in California, and I can't be there with my family at this point in time. All of us are kind of scattered between Canada and the States. And so we've had no ability to come together as a family and grieve together. And that has been the hardest for me. And I suspect for those of you who have had loved ones go in the last couple of years, that's probably been the hardest too. That how do we pay tribute to the life of our loved ones if we cannot come together to celebrate the life that they did leave and honor their achievements, their accomplishments, their who they were at their core being. That's hard. So in this day and age, when so many of us live in different parts of the world, especially in relation to the people that we're connected with, our loved ones, then it's important to find other ways. What else can we do to make that situation kind of resolve itself? So how do we do it differently and yet achieve the same result? So, for example, I know that many of my sister's friends and some family will gather in September down in the States. Well, if I'm not able to be there, I'm hoping that maybe I can Zoom in and participate remotely, which would be of some support. So whatever we can do, however we can do it. So a dear aunt of mine, we spent several hours on the phone the other day just talking about everything that came up, simply because we both needed that connection, that there's a distance, physical distance there, and we couldn't be together. So we were together on the phone. And my challenge is to accept that that's enough. And of course, I have dear friends who have gathered around me to surround me with hugs and bring me meals and help me out in this time, because I've told them this is the part that's the hardest for me, that I can't be with my family to hug and share and cry and laugh and all those things that we do when we're mourning someone who is gone. So today, if you're going through some kind of loss that's heavy on your heart, I really want you to feel the feelings as they come up. Sometimes they'll blindside us and we're, whoa, where did that come from? Well, honor whatever you're feeling and express it, get it out. Don't hold on to it. Don't stuff it down. Just feel whatever you're feeling in that moment, and then do your best to release it. And even just in feeling it, it will release itself. It will pass on through. It's the problem is if we deny it to the point where we say, no, I'm not going to feel that, and then we stuff it. Well, of course, it becomes an issue, which, as I've said before, and I heard from my friend Dan, lives in the tissue. Well, your body will tell you, oh no, you can't do that. And we don't need any more challenges for our bodies than we already have. So do yourself a favor and honor whatever it is you're feeling. If you want to laugh, laugh. If you want to cry, cry. If you want to beat your pillow because you're really angry, well, do that. Whatever it takes to acknowledge and honor the emotion that you're feeling. And then I promise you'll feel better. You'll just feel better, and it will be easier for you as you go. You know you can do this because you're that magnificent, and you're moving into this level of magnificence where you honor yourself in that way. And of course, when we honor ourselves and we honor our loved ones, that just makes the world a better place. And I like that. Until next week, my dear friends, have a glorious weekend and just love yourself. Love yourself through all of your challenges and losses, and love yourself through all of your achievements and the wonderfulness that comes into your life. Enjoy your weekend. Bye for now.